Welcome back, everybody, to the LEC ahead of the game of Vitality versus Koi. I have with me head coach of Vitality, Carter. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, there's been a flaming hot question the entire week. You guys brought in Douglas from the LFL. How has that been? How has this change been for your team?
It's been good. It's been a quick change. We brought in Douglas at the beginning of the week, and he's been practicing with the team. He's got to know the team and how we want to play and execute together as a team. So looking forward to the final week.
Absolutely. And when it comes to play styles, what does he bring that is different from Bo?
I think what Douglas brings to us is a lot more stability in game, and we really like that. And he's been showing great performances in the LFL.
Yeah, we have seen that, absolutely. And now, when it comes to the last week, it's a make-or-break week for a lot of teams, yours included. How do you prep a rookie to come into that week 3 and basically give you that head start into groups?
Yeah, well, he joined us at the beginning of the week, and we were able to go through like the fundamentals of how we want to play as a team, and he's had a chance to prepare scrims with us and practice with the team. So just going through the standard things, and that's helped him to be ready.
Can't wait to see him now. Any quick words about Koi that you guys are about to face?
Koi is a great team, and we're going to give them full respect, but we're feeling confident.
Okay, can't wait to see that confidence. Thank you very much, Carter, and good luck in your game. Dracos, over to you guys at the desk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trouble and Carter. I will say, well, I'm glad to hear that they're coming in with some confidence. I was not particularly inspired. This is a very tricky situation, Bo coming out, and while I'm glad to hear that the kind of bringing Douglas into this was a very quick process, the fact that the word fundamentals came out of his mouth, a natural thing when you're bringing in a player, but you're bringing in a player in a week where if you mess up, you're done. So hearing the word fundamentals at all is a very big red flag. And that's not on Douglas, that's just a reality of the situation. So I'm sweating for Vitality.
I think just looking at it from the perspective of Douglas, it's a 17-year-old, they've had a good week now in the LFL where they had 2 wins. Before that, they weren't looking that hot. This is a player that is more known for playing the carry junglers, which is something that Bo did. Maybe it's something, the cohesiveness that they're trying to solve, but it's such a daunting task to come in on a team that is full of veterans that haven't managed to solve their problems and now put that on the shoulders of Douglas. It is, if he manages to piece this together, it is just insanity altogether. Because if we look at the position of, for example, Oscarinin, last split, he was pushed into, the deep end. The first week was really, really rough for him. That was so much to take in at the same time, and the guy needs to play the LFL at the same time, but he's had some good performances. They brought in Scarface, and all of a sudden Vitality B are looking better and better, but I want to highlight that Douglas played the LFL matches and now is also going to play the LEC, so this guy's been super, super busy.
He's in the deep end now because Vitality might only have 1 week here, 3 games, especially when you consider like games for them ended on Monday. We're on Saturday now. If they took no days off, that's 4 days to work together as a team. That is a ridiculous turnaround.
And also considering that if they lose 1 match, their odds just fall down and plummet immensely. So the pressure's on from game 1. So this is an opportunity for Douglas to really, really prove himself and be the piece that Vitality has been missing all along. But I wouldn't fault him if he wasn't that guy, because the task is tough.
Honestly, like I feel like from Vitality's perspective, this almost can't be like a pure like 1-for-1 slot upgrade. I think it was very clear in just watching the way Vitality played. There was huge disconnect on that team, whether it was Bo with his laners doing objectives without priority, odd gank timings, whether as a team they were resetting not together. To me, this seems like a swap you'd come into to have not necessarily a strong voice coming into the roster, but someone that will role play for the team, and you've clearly decided a vision on how to play the game that he and the rest of the team can get behind.
I think the angle, if anything, I feel like Vitality in a lot of moments, they lost so much by trying to do so much more, and I think maybe bringing Douglas can maybe paint a picture of humility where they really, really simplified the way they want to play, because on Bo's end, I thought that a lot of the fights he took, if you look at it, and you can kind of find the arguments for what he's doing, but no one is committing to the same idea. And maybe now when you have a player that's maybe willing to take a back foot, maybe there's like a simple play style that they can follow along and maybe play the scaling game and let someone like Upset dominate the 3-4 items.
And I think what's interesting here is if you look behind us, we have the early game stats. Because when we were looking for ways for the Vitality roster we expected to come into this week, we weren't going to talk about coordination because it didn't seem like a viable option. We were going to shift attention naturally to early game because they were significantly more dominant spring, arguably even more dominant winter when we were looking at Photon and Bo as this dynamic duo. They were smashing, they were building massive early game gold leads. But now it feels to me like it's not reasonable to say, hey, you're going to dominate early game completely with this new jungler. Instead, we kind of had this chance for a new identity for Vitality, better coordination in the late game, but it does feel like a tough ask because it all hinges again on a player who is so young, who's not experienced on the stage, who's playing in front of this LEC crowd for the first time. This is insane for Vitality.
100%, it is insane. But at the same time, I feel like, and sort of to what Yamato was talking about, I don't think they need to like go all out and play crazy for the early game. You've got Upset in the bot side, Perkz, fantastic team fighters. Photon is a guy that was always very dominant on his own. He also required some assist or had a lot of assistance from Bo in the previous splits, but I think this is a situation where laners can sort of call a little bit more for the jungle role.
I think also on the other side, in terms of what the LEC has been, the bottom half of it has been in turmoil, knowing that their opposition now, of course, is Koi. This is a team that has been struggling in their own as well. I feel like in Koi's victories, a lot of it has been about just kind of walking in a ball into the goal because of how much they've scaled into the late game. Like one game was so deep, but their mid game has just been so painful to watch because it is the epitome of inactivity. They have good laners, but then it just kind of stalls out. And the two wins that they have on the board is Xayah being 6 items, and then this Gwen, Tristana, Lulu composition that went to 40 minutes.
Yeah, they're walking the ball to the goal, 20 minutes hits, and they want to go grab a drink of water. You know, on the upside,
they feel like
they
it's
come
done.
back like the ball isn't here anymore. What happened?
It's a tricky thing, and unfortunately, we're not going to get more time to talk about Koi today. Obviously, very focused in on this Vitality storyline with the substitution, but we'll hope for Koi's sake that they can clean up some of those mid-game problems and bring it home against a Vitality that by all means could be weaker with this last-minute substitution we're just going to have to see for now. Let's send it over to the casters, Dagda and Quickshot.
Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome back to the cast desk. Hello, BSGs and MBs. That was a really fun camera twist. Team Vitality taking on Koi right now. And I really, really like how Yamato Cannon talked about Koi's mid-game. It's something that Dagda and I are going to explicitly dive deeper on once we get onto the Rift. But the big question, Team Vitality, one win this summer. Will Douglas help them find a second? One quick tidbit for those of you who may not know Douglas. In 2022 spring, he set a new record for the most kills in a single game in the Greek ERL with 27 kills as Kane. I have been informed by my stats team to report that it was a quote-unquote troll game. Doesn't matter. 27 kills, Kane, and I know he's also a Belbeth and a Kane main. Let's find out what he runs today. Team Vitality removing 5, removing Sejuani. Are they setting up a comfortable pick for Douglas? That's what it looks like to me right now.
Yeah, I definitely think Douglas will probably go back towards something like the Wukong. Has played it in the NFL, and also the fact it still kind of fits both his styles of carry, but can work well with the team, and I think that's exactly what Vitality need, because I think the big one is you want Douglas to kind of follow what Perkz and Upset are trying to set for the team, which is, hey, I will play on side lanes if I'm Perkz for a little bit, but then I want to try and play for team fights, and I think having Douglas come in on something like a Wukong is your best bet. So maybe the Maokai ban comes through here, maybe they try to first pick a Maokai, and then if not, fall back to the Wukong.
I mean, Maokai is one of the top 3 most successful picks that we've seen. Instead, removing the Kennen, a little bit of a head scratcher for me there. So both the Zeri, the Aphelios still open and available. Draven as well, only throwing that out there for both Upset as well. I mean, the Maokai is a big pick, so a number of sort of priority champions available for Vitality secure on this blue side first pick.
Yeah, Xayah going to be taken off the board as well. So they are screaming, if you don't take this Maokai, we're going to take it. So yeah, it's going to be forced into the hands of Douglas. We'll have to see exactly how he's going to work his magic on that one. As we look to the opposite side, immediately going to take the Aphelios. And I imagine they're probably going to take something like the Lulu, to pair alongside it here with the Milio and the Yuumi gone off the table.
All right, so Aphelios as well as Lulu removed. Zeri is still open and available. And you and I have had the pleasure of casting a couple of the let him cook games from Perkz. We saw the Varus last week, didn't work out. We had the pleasure of seeing his LeBlanc with Shiv. I wonder if he's going to go something a bit more shenanigan and tomfoolery today, or pair something up a little bit more traditional, keep it simple for Douglas and the rest of the Vitality squad.
Well, I think with the draft the setup at the moment, you're probably trying to set up for some sort of like team fight on top side, like play through your 3-0 with Perkz. So could easily beat the LeBlanc with static Shiv. I think it works well in these early skirmishes and can play well with Maokai and Renekton and just target one person, burst them down, and then make sure the team fight's in your way. But going to be the Azir instead. So Azir just rising up as this, hey, I get control over mid. I can play well with Renekton in a lot of these early skirmishes. Let's see what we can do with this.
I mean, that's going to be the first Azir for Perkz all summer. It is his 4th most played champion, 69% win rate with 36 games professionally over the years that he's competed. And that also means that the bottom lane will be moved to phase 2. That's not something we've seen very often here in summer. And the LeBlanc will be taking away another one of Larssen's most played champions.
I was curious to see exactly what the game plan was, because there is always an opportunity to go for something like a Silas if you want to in that mid lane, to then take the Maokai ultimate, set that self up for your team. Even just that you can do relatively well in the mid lane against something like the Azir, even force him to use that ultimate a bit early before you go towards skirmishes. But going to go towards that static Shiv LeBlanc instead, and just trying to get rid of now anything that can be a pest in the bot lane. So get rid of the Nami, because that gets rid of the Lucian essentially, because the Milio is gone as well. And then I'm kind of pushing myself to go Jinx, I imagine, is probably going to be the big pick here. So ban that away for Koi as well.
Well, that will be definitely what we're going to be looking at. What other bottom lane champions will be removed? I think as well, I want to keep my eyes on Photon and how he plays the Renekton. Let's keep in mind he's playing with a new jungler on stage. Obviously hasn't got that much experience with scrims on his belt. And we spent a fairly significant amount of time in game 1 today talking about the Renekton, talking about how Renekton has struggled in the LEC. I mean, coming into today, it was 3 wins, 7 losses. There was a victory secured just moments ago, so it's 4 and 7 right now. And Koi will remove instead the Nautilus from Kaiser. So they've allowed Upset to prioritize sort of either the Zeri or the Jinx. One last ban here for Vitality. They've gotten rid of top laners in the form of that Cannon, Poppy the Flex in the jungle. So Malrang's also going to have his champion pool limited somewhat too.
Yeah, Malrang is going to be in a real struggle. I think you can still go back towards the Wukong, but it's not great into the Maokai. At least you can have some ability to like prevent and engage, where you use the clone to block stuff, but it's also a lot of your engage. So I mean, curious to see what he goes for.
Gragas, Nocturne, Wukong champions he's played this summer already. Options available to him. We also need to see what Szygenda is going to be running into that Renekton in the top lane, and who gets the counter pick options.
I'm not the biggest fan. Okay, it's going to be the Trundle that he takes into the jungle, but I think he needs some sort of engage. Like, you don't really have setup for this Aphelios, and against the Maokai and Azir, how the hell does Comp ever get into these fights? So I actually imagine you're probably going to see a shift back from Szygenda here in towards something like an Ornn. I think could actually work out relatively well here, but we'll have to see exactly what the plan is. It's Zeri Soraka into the bot lane. Not what I expected at all. I was kind of looking through the match history of Upset just to see what he could go for. Like, he has been playing some hints of the Draven, which could have worked out relatively well. But even the Kog'Maw, which is going to be the other AD card we've seen, it doesn't really work massively well here. So just going to take the Zeri anyway, and looks like it'll actually be the Gnar. So very inconsistent engage, I will say, for Koi. And as a team where you have been struggling to find those moments in the mid game to set up well, this is not a composition that screams that either.
Well, it's definitely going to be putting Koi to the test in terms of their timing and their windows. We've got some phenomenal numbers in terms of how Koi play up till 14 minutes and then how it goes way south from then on. Let's zoom out really quickly, let's focus on Team Vitality, the Soraka, Zeri in the bottom lane, flanked by that scaling of the Azir. How do they want to win this game?
So I think for Vitality, it's fairly simple. Front to back team fights, right? Very similar to what we just saw coming out from Astralis, where it's just like, hey, we got Maokai, we got Azir. Let's just try and find these team fights, play with the early Rift Herald plays because we've got our Renekton on the top side, and then have Zeri come in later with this mega scaling. But on the opposite side, I think that is the big question for Koi. Like, you can try and play side lanes a little bit. Like, you've got the Gnar should have a better advantage. You got static Shiv and LeBlanc, so I feel like it's some sort of 1-3-1 is probably their best bet. But it does make it very difficult, especially when you're thinking, oh well, we should have mid push to try and play for dragons, or mid push and top push to try and, or sorry, mid push and like opportunities to play around top to try and look for Herald plays. So I am really curious as to how this one plays out.
Scratching our head a little bit about this Koi draft and also the expectations. We're going to say it straight. Koi, do something better in the mid game. We want to see an improvement. Let's find out if they can. It's Vitality vs Koi in Summer's Rift. As I find out, there's There's no video, there's no music. We're just loading straight up onto the Rift in a moment or two. Thank you to our producers. I think I just broke something. I don't know if you heard that on stream, but nevertheless. Welcome to Summoner's Rift here. Let's keep our eyes on how these two teams play out. Very specific focus on Koi's early game, which has been strong. They're already grouping up. Looking to run down Upset and Kaiser, the Zeri and Soraka. The last time we saw Soraka was in Spring Groups, if I recall. Hillisang was the one that played that. So it's been a little while. It's not a duo I was anticipating. And I've got this weird feeling in the back of my head that that wish from Soraka, it's a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card. You've got the Renekton, the Maokai, the Azir. If they are playing around the top half of the map, if there's a lot of skirmishes happening, you've got that extra global to come in and help out somewhat.
Yeah, it usually doesn't come online until after Rift Herald, though. So I still think for Vitality, though, you're fine with that. Like, this is a team that has very clear win cons, which is play for team fights, play around objectives, and make sure that you're able to set up a strong front to back. Maybe Photon wants to look for some sort of flanks, but I mean, the fact that he'll probably be in a side lane pushing against Szygenda means that he's going to be fine. So this is where I want to see Vitality being on the same page, because that's been the big question, and I think why Dagda is coming in is, again, to just remove a voice from the team. You can see that when you look at Perkz, he wants to play for sides. Upset's resetting to play for AD carry advantages and then also to play for team fights. Whereas you had Bo, who was like, hey, I want to try and find these picks. I want to try and find moments where we can quickly like work as a team. Very similar to his days in FPX to find an advantage before the fight kicks off. But if your team aren't with you, that doesn't work. So for Vitality, I don't think Dagda's suddenly going to solve the issues, but at least removing a voice where Vitality might decide to get on the same page.
I mean, it was infuriating watching, because look at Vitality right now. Team, the scoreline 1-5. Dagda is coming in, and the question I'm asking is, where do they go? In winter, they won the regular season, they came first. Spring, they came fourth. And are we on track for dumpster fire, or are we on track for the confetti? That's the question for Vitality, and we're going to have to find out as Dagda has made his debut on the LEC stage, for now, clearing out the bottom half of his jungle. At least when he was playing more of those carry-oriented champions, Power Farmer spent a lot of time generating, gold and clearing out the camps before getting to those skirmishes and fights. Won't have that real sort of luxury opportunity on the Maokai.
But it's also, there's only really one lane he can play around. Can't help Perkz, it's a LeBlanc. She just dashes away. Can't help bot, there's literally no setup, and you just speed up yourself to get out of there as Advienne. So I think the real question now is, how do you try and play around Photon in that top side? If you can burn some of these flashes on Szygenda in the early stages, he's going to become next to useless in some of these fights at the Rift Herald, like we've been highlighting. So I think that's the big call here for Dagda, is try and get in to affect that top side. But you can already see, like, both these wards here, sitting there in the river, just into Tribush, and also there into the river there, just to make sure that they spot out any sort of roams that might potentially happen from Dagda.
Thank you to the observers, they're highlighting it. Perkz will get jumped on by Larssen, takes a small trade. He's been pushed backwards, even CS in the top lane, and advantages for both mid and bot thus far, with those waves being shoved all the way forward. I mean, you somewhat expect this. Soraka's going to have a bit of a limited trading pattern early on, as well as that Zeri, and Dagda may have an opportunity. Larssen, low on mana, will find those ethereal chains. It's going to be the scuttle focus for now for that Maokai, and the only lane in favor of Vitality is top thus far with that early levels of Renekton.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be the case for a little bit anyway. Szygenda, at least when he starts to hit a couple of extra levels in the queue, should be able to buy some space, be able to look for some of these auto attacks and keep Photon at bay, but still has to be quite careful. So Dagda is going to spot out Malrang as Malrang starts to move in. Has the help of Perkz here, so Dagda's going to be put under pressure here in his first game.
Yeah, want to be pushed a little bit further back. You do not want to be fighting that Trundle early on. A difficult champion. Ruthless Predator used there from Photon. Gets a good trade onto Szygenda in his mini Gnar form. And we caught a quick glimpse there of Perkz, who is running the Halo Blades on that Azir. We also just saw the Shattered Crown Nash's Tooth build. And we're not going to see that same thing coming out of Perkz.
Yeah, I think the big one for the Halo Blades is you want to try and trade effectively in lane, so you get a ton of auto attacks very quickly off with the Halo Blades, so as LeBlanc moves in, you can trade very quickly back. And a huge amount of LeBlanc's early trading patterns is the case of, hey, I want to dominate in lane and then move elsewhere. So the fact that you get access to some of these runes that will give you some Omnivamp in the later portion of the game and that kind of stuff just makes things a little bit easier for Perkz, alongside being able to output a lot of that damage with the Halo Blades, or more of that damage in a short burst in the trading pattern LeBlanc wants.
Far now, Perkz has been pushed back and still sitting minor disadvantage. Both of these teams starting off relatively even. And we mentioned it, the Analyst has talked about it. I think Yamato had some very strong words about Koi's mid-game. And we see Larssen training. Look at this. Koi have got, on average throughout summer, 700 gold lead at 40 minutes. And they dropped a 2.5k behind at 25 minutes. How the hell does that happen, Dagda?
Because they don't do anything. Like every single time that they get these advantages, it's like, oh, we can try and look for dragons, or we can try and set up vision. And it's just Koi kind of going, no, we're not really going to set up properly. We're going to end up losing out in team fights because we haven't set up correctly. And a large portion of it just seems to be the team inconsistent on how they want to try and push those advantages forward. And you can even see it at the moment here as well, right? You got a good advantage in that bottom side of the map, and a lot of it is the CS advantages that like Comp is picking up. Larssen as well has been massive good CSD and good gold leads for himself in those mid lane. But just translating that into anything hasn't really come to fruition for Koi. And we'll have to see now against Vitality, who have this very strong late game scaling when you look towards like their bottom 4 champions.
Yeah.
Like Koi can't just let them run away with this.
I think both of these teams have got slightly awkward initiation patterns because, yes, you've got the long-range Nature's Grasp. That will give you a ton of zone control. But then you are relying on Azir and Renekton to throw themselves at the enemy. Koi, on the other end, they need Szygenda to have his Mega Gnar. Need to make sure that's comboed with the Lulu, looking for a flank from Larssen. So they're very risky engages as far as initiation tools go. And I wonder what that will do for the post-Rift Herald, the Dragon 2, Dragon 3 skirmishes, because right now, first Dragon went the way of Koi and managed to pick up that Hextech Drake. We're a minute and a bit away from that first Herald, and we've discussed it fairly extensively. I want to see whether or not Photon and Dagda can use this Renekton Maokai combo while Larssen continues to bully, continue to maintain some semblance of control in this middle lane.
I think it's just an easier setup for Vitality, because when you look towards Koi, it's like, if Szygenda's on flank, who the hell tanks the Maokai ulters?
Yeah.
Like, you got Malrang, sure, but Malrang getting immediately, but Kaiser actually might be in trouble.
Good damage. Summoner heal used there from Kaiser in reply to the Ignite, so 1-for-1 trade. Importantly though, still in the back foot, still being bullied. Comp on this Aphelios, marginally ahead. He's also got the Cull, so he's going to have that cash in a few minutes' time. The BF sword, comparison to the Sheen, so a little bit more like just upfront trading power for the time being.
Yeah, at the moment though, I actually like what Koi are doing. So you get the trade on the bot side, immediately Malrang moves into the jungle, he sets up all that vision on bot side, so again, Comp and Advienne can continue to put the pressure on this bot side. Now, Dagda has actually set up a few of these sleeper saplings to make sure that he can spot Malrang here, so knew that Malrang was there, which is why he didn't immediately just crest into the bush. But it's still, you can spot out that Malrang's doing this. There's just very little that Vitality can actually do on this bottom side now to answer it.
All right, look at the mini-map. Advienne's already made his way towards the top half of the map, started to place some wards down in anticipation of that Rift Herald. A great amount of Koi wards in the southern quadrant. You can see Dagla's clearing them out, then Kaiser just stepped across one as well.
And this is where I would have liked to have seen Dagla's try and make that play into top side. We were talking about Szygenda, if he had no flash here, would actually be a major target for these fights, especially if he's a mini Gnar. Now though, yes, you're moving Kaiser up and you should have control on top side, as Photon's been trading very effectively. But if you actually have Koi in a position where they might try and fight this, it could be a bit of a difficult time. Szygenda is about to go mega, but looks like Koi not really wanting to do so, as Photon had crashed that wave, and you're not really looking at the wave in a decent spot for Larssen either yet.
Yeah, concede that objective. Larssen will hop over with that distortion, spot out Perkz in the river, and the Rift Herald secured. It will be picked up by Dagda. I would like to see where it gets dropped. We saw in the previous game the very first Rift Herald ended up fizzling. It wasn't used efficiently enough, and then because of a skirmish going awry, when it was dropped top lane, it didn't manage to pick up that advantage, because similarly, while Vitality get the objective, there's already plates secure in the bottom lane for Comp, who's got a 500 gold lead, and Szygenda's going to be using that Mega Gnar to just bully Photon, receive this wave, and maintain a little bit of a lead for now until Photon can clear out this minions in front of it.
I still think the call, though, is to use that in mid lane. Because if you can destroy that mid lane turret, it makes it very hard for Koi to actually try and play the side lanes. It's Larssen just being a bit of a nuisance, but you can't lean as heavily as Koi into these side lanes, because you have to be worried about, oh, but Vitality crash mid-wave, but they can immediately jump onto side. So Koi want to try and prevent that from happening as much as possible, but it's going to be kind of difficult to do. I mean, Perkz has been doing a great job of getting control over mid. That will change when the static shift comes through, so there's a small window there. And honestly, I think you just toss it down, get the charge, make sure you can actually guarantee that charge, so when they follow, the second Rift Tower comes up and available, you can actually take mid lane turret with it instead.
And crucially, of course, as soon as that mid lane tower goes down, I think just last week we actually saw a game completely break wide open once that tower eventually fell. It's really hard trying to deal with the Azir, especially with that Sun Disk in the middle turret. So even if his tower goes down, Perkz will have a little bit more time, a little bit more control, but he's got momentarily a static Shiv LeBlanc to deal with. As you can see, Larssen continually jumping into Perkz, trying to keep him base. Plus 20 already.
Yeah, it's also just the fact that Upset and Kaiser have lost bot lane. They can't really contest mid-prio now if you shift the AD carry into that mid lane. And that's going to make it very easy now for Larssen, who should win lane. Szygenda, who's going to get a couple items up in his belt and then start to win this matchup as well. So that's now where you're starting to see that, okay, well, Upset and Kaiser are going to have impacts now on the side lanes. So for Vitality, again, I think you have to get mid lane turret down. So then you can actually roam Dagda to these sides to try and help out.
And I mean, look, Larssen is maintaining control of this lane. If you look at his stats throughout summer, second for kill participation, his team fight KDA, seen for tied for first. Goal difference at 14 has been very good. And it's Koi making another first move here onto Upset. Ghost has been used, final spark drop, flash away from Advienne, who's already used the wild growth. The target will be Malrang. He's smashed backwards, silenced by the Equinox, and the Subjugate is doing work. Subjugate on a Maokai, and they're able to walk away. Golf claps here from Berlin, well deserved. Nobody's fallen, but we are roughly on script for Koi. They're around 700 gold up. We're approaching 14 minutes. The first few moves and the first few blows is where Koi have done well all summer. Now we need to see if they've learned over from week 2 to week 3, can they transition that into later stages in this mid game?
Yeah, and this is where I want to see what the plan is with this Rift Herald, because Dragon is up, Malrang's already on it, so for Perkz, and for Dagda, you want to drop it.
Szygenda step forward, try to get that hyper flash out! Photon just about short! Nearly picks up the solo kill. Larssen's got that static shift. Emperor's defied. It's sidestepped. And Perkz is forced to flash. Larssen absolutely owning that matchup for now.
Still seeing the same problems with Vitality though. So Photon is trying to play aggressive in that top side because he knows Szygenda has that TP available. So he's like, right, I need to try and play. So then Szygenda can't TP to the Dragon. So Photon's checking Dragon. You then look at Perkz and Dagda. Well, they're sitting in mid lane with Kaiser, but they're not getting mid-prio, so then they can try and play for it. And they don't use the Rift Tower to try and guarantee that either. And then when you look in towards the mid again, they give up Dragon, but Perkz is losing mid-trade, Dagda isn't there to help, and Koi are taking advantages. So we're still seeing the Vitality just, again, being on the same page, deciding how they want to try and play this isn't working.
And not to be an apologist, I think it's a little bit more understandable now with the substitution coming in. The problem is, it's the same frustrations that we've seen, or the same challenges I think we've seen many times this year for this squad.
And Douglas, like, this isn't Douglas's fault. Like, this is not gonna, he's not gonna magically fix this. Again, it felt like it was a remove a voice, remove a third way of the game attempting to be played. But for Vitality, you're still seeing, again, even with 2 different ways to play, that's too many.
Now, let's also be fair, okay? We're about to hit the stage of the game where Koi have shown many struggles. It's only 1,000 gold difference, and they've got a Zeri and a Azir. Upset's going to get caught out there by the Moonlight Vigil. Decent damage from Comp. He's able to just about put enough distance to survive. And I think for Vitality, you can't discount the fact that Azir, Soraka, Zeri have got late game, comeback potentials. With the fact that Koi are only a 1,400 gold lead, it's not done yet.
True, but you get no value from your Rift Herald. You get nothing coming out from the fact that you're losing bot side, so Comp should be able to take that tower. You're losing mid lane because now Static Shiv is completed, so they're going to be able to push plus the 600 gold lead that Larssen has. And now you're starting to see this matchup in the top lane is changing. Like, you're starting to get to a position where Szygenda will just naturally start to win this. So for Koi, they have now 3 winning lanes. They're about to take bot lane tower because it's only got 2 plates. Mid lane should be no issue at all. And then they got to start playing their game. So unless you manage to get this Rift Herald Vitality and suddenly blow open the game, I don't see it happening.
Well, going to be very difficult to do. Photon is in trouble. Szygenda and Malrang running him down. Nature's Grasp buys time. The Wish keeps Photon alive, and the latest first blood of summer is secured. It's Photon's Renekton, backed up by Douglas's Maokai. 2 kills, 2 assists for Vitality in the top lane. It's almost like at 14 minutes, Koi forget how the game should be played. That's not fair. That was not fair at all. That was just for fun. But as I mentioned, latest first blood of summer. The crowd knew it, the crowd were feeling it. They were clapping for it. And as Vitality that keep that goal difference, they will also secure the Herald as an additional prize.
And at least now that should give them a little bit more to work with. And Photon as well, picking up that extra gold should make it a little bit easier for him to try and deal with this matchup in the top side. But Again, I want to see how Vitality actually try to get control of this game, because look at mid. I mean, Larssen's already there. He's working his way on towards mid tower as well, making sure that he can get that damage down. So Perkz is, again, not really getting control there. And honestly, Larssen could move down into bot side here. He's considering this.
Larsen's thinking about it. At the red buff for now, the tower's fallen. Koi will take that. They maintain 400 gold lead. Now, the Herald was secured after this double kill. I'd like to see Douglas using it this time around. It expired previously. Won't blame the new guy. I know, Dagda, you mentioned it as well. But I think just in terms of this, Douglas, right time, right place, and the Wish also buying enough for that Q heal as well.
Yeah, and look, Photon is incredibly strong at the moment.
Yes.
Level 11 hit for this Renekton. He's in a really good spot. Douglas is there to follow up. But it is that push-pull trade, right? Vitality went top, but it means that Koi, who already had the advantage on the bot side, get the bot lane tower, so they got the immediately go on towards comp. You're getting that pressure in the mid lane. And again, I'd actually like to see them set up here where it's like, put the Larssen into the bottom side, but I think they're actually just going to dive onto Photon.
Okay, that seems to be the case. Look at your minimap. Look at your minimap. 3 members of Koi. They're looking for Renekton. Douglas dug that Herald out. Photon, no flash. Dominus is up. Manages to throw down the Q. Wish is a few seconds away. Dominus buys a few more seconds under the tower. And Malrang drops to a few hundred. The Herald will get a second charge this time round. 1,000 gold the lead for Koi. And Kaiser needs to back away. All right, kill was secured by Larssen on his LeBlanc. He's up 1,500 gold. Comp is up 1,000 gold. And it's the Photon Douglas duo that are currently balancing it out in that top lane. Larssen almost getting those chains onto Perkz, and with 10 seconds to Dragon, we are playing on that Air Rift, and for now, it looks like Vitality backing. If Koi make a quick move, they might be able to secure their thirds.
Well, they should be able to get this top for Szygenda, and I like this. You get to reset, you have TP available for Szygenda, but not for Photon. So Photon has to move topside. Szygenda can still join in for this Dragon fight. So that's why Koi are perfectly happy to say, yeah, let's do it, lads. We're just going to have an extra man here if you try and match this. So Photon now is stuck trying to cover mid lane because Koi has started Dragon.
Okay, the fight is ensuing. Perkz gets in trouble for now, forced to use those conquering shifting sands out. Nature's Gratis just smites it down. Douglas walks in and gets the objective. In the ensuing fight, Malrang forced to flash over the wall. Larssen distorts to safety. Koi maintain the gold lead, but the Dragon stacking is slowed down and it is stalled. And Vitality have got themselves another foot in the door.
Szygenda didn't get the reset in time. You can see now he's only gone back for his Triforce. Still had to try and reset before TPing in, so he slowed down on the play. You can see him in this top side. He'd actually cleared out the full minion wave and then didn't just immediately reset when I think he could have. So here, you're in a 4 versus 4. We talked about the easier setup for team fights for Vitality. The late TP means that there's no real pressure. And great job from Douglas. Just walks up, smites it, and then you've already got yourself in a position where you can follow up onto Szygenda here. Vitality in a decent spot, and they're able to make things happen.
All right, as we come out of the replay, we do have a brief pause. I will get you confirmation on the details in a moment or two, but a very tense game this far. Sorry, I should not chuckle at this. I really shouldn't. I believe a flight landed on Upset's forehead. So, we are in Berlin. It is in summer. Everyone in the studio knows those bugs, and the wasps in particular are frustrating. So obviously, we're trying to get some bug spray out there or deal with that. We will be jumping back into game in a moment. And the reason that I shouldn't be laughing is there's 2 games in a row now, Dagda, that we've had a pretty slow opening 10 minutes, a pretty tense opening 10 minutes, because for all 4 of the teams that we've cast thus far, the stakes are really, really high. If Vitality go 3-0, they still do not guarantee themselves a group stage slot. Luckily, they have a lot of championship points under their belt, so they are in a much stronger situation looking ahead to season finals. But man, for Vitality, down in gold, behind in Dragons, they are in a precarious situation. And Larssen right now, 30 CS up, is a force to be feared.
That's the problem. You've now lost all your outer turrets as Vitality. You've got 1 Dragon to your name, so forcing fights there for Koi isn't really an option. So for Larssen, you just play for sides. You got Szygenda now with his Triforce, and he's going to be in a good spot. Going towards the Black Cleaver makes it very difficult then for Photon to really do particularly much against them. So in this position, as long as you can keep control over mid-wave, the game becomes significantly easier for Koi. The fact that Comp has had so much of a lead over Upset, you can see 1,000 gold lead for the AD carry, makes it 10 times easier for Koi to keep that position. Plus the fact that Advienne, at any point in time, can just speed up Comp to threaten Upset. It's a winning situation for Koi.
And if you look at the combat gold at the top of your screen, despite only a 2,000 gold lead, So much of that is in additional combat gold. It's 5,000 the difference. When you think of all the stats, there's additional legendary items completed on the side of Koi. If a fight breaks out, the odds are stacked against Vitality. Now, I'm going to ask you, Dagda, to think a little bit about how Koi played the last 5 or so minutes and how well they are playing the next few minutes. I think it is also fair to say, even if Koi are playing better than we've seen, it is against the 10th place team in Summer, right? So let's balance that measure out. But in terms of how Larssen is applying pressure, they've got 3 towers already. They were very close to securing that 3rd dragon. To me, this is steps in the right direction and punishing a team that is obviously struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I think for Koi, it's actually funny to see them going back towards this 1-3-1 style, because this is actually how they lost to SK.
Yes,
you remember,
I
in their game last week? Yeah,
committing to the dragon fights.
He was speeding his way over there. I wasn't sure if he wanted to try and make something happen, but Szygenda no.
Well, Upset's going to hop over the wall. That's a flash already from Szygenda. Mega Gnar might buy some time. Burst fire is not enough. Shigenda's able to escape. The rest of Koi in the top half of the map. Larssen may be able to distort forward onto Perkz. Holding on to it for now. Comp is looking for the Vigil, finds the root! The Equinox, I think, holding him in place, and the green gun not being able to connect.
It was also the silence from that Equinox meant that he couldn't swap over to the Q to actually get that long-range shot, so nearly able to get it there, but just not quite. Still, though, that sends Kaiser packing. I'm surprised that we didn't see Koi try and put more emphasis on the Baron there when you see Upset and Photon on the bot side of the map, but again, the fact that you don't have this guaranteed turn, it makes it very difficult.
May I correct you?
Go first.
You would have liked to have seen it, but you're not surprised they didn't put pressure. Let's zoom out and remember the games for the summer.
That is fair, but I do get it to a certain extent as well, because like, how do you turn with this composition, right?
Yes.
Like, they jumped on Szygenda and you're like, all right, Lulu, cue them. Stop
Yes,
them.
exactly.
You got this. It's like,
Kill
all right.
odds for the win. Yeah. But also, to be fair, what Larssen has done very well is he has been an incredibly impactful force. I mean, look, both Larssen and Comp, 2 items secured already. It is obviously, I don't use the word balanced, but it's matched by Photon and Dagda. But the impact of a 2-item LeBlanc, 2-item Aphelios versus Maokai and Renekton, it's way more terrifying. It's still going to be difficult for Koi to start fights.
I think that's the thing. It's like, you are playing very different games here. Vitality do want to play for team fights, and honestly, I think if we actually see Perkz complete this Rabadon's death cap and then get to a team fight, like, Vitality probably do win team fights. You've just got larger AoE, you've got good setup, you've easy ways to access the team. I think that's where Vitality are strong. Koi, though, as long as they continue to play this side lane game with Larssen, that's where they should be in a commanding position. As we said, Szygenda actually not even going for the Black Cleaver, he's gone straight for the Hullbreaker. So he wants to just play for sides as well. So Koi are well aware of how they want to try and play at this game.
Did Szygenda have Hullbreaker in that game we cast as well last time? I think he
It
might
wasn't
have.
Szygenda, it was irrelevant.
It was irrelevant, the
Yeah,
Jax.
yeah.
There we go. It's the other way around. Thank you for reminding me, because I recall that exact sentence coming out. But anyways, let's focus back in. Dragon number 4 of the game, spawning. Koi are inside the river, waiting for that Nature's Grasp. Photon coming over the movement speed increase. And Perkz trying to get in position for that divide, trying to use that wall. Sand Soldiers are doing a lot. The Ultra Shock Laser zoning away. Dagda stepped in and smited this last time around. The Pillar of Ice is up. And the Dragon's still being focused. 4,000. Nature's Grasp now going forth. The engage is found. And Szygenda that's already down. Dagda gets the kill. Vitality are inside the pit. And the Moonlight Vigil did not do enough. Larssen finds the chains onto Upset, but he's forced backwards. The Emperor's Divide sending Koi packing. Photon, Dagda and Upset are completely untouched. Koi right now running for their lives, and Malrang flashes over the wall. They lose 1. Vitality get the Drake, and it's still a 3,000 goal game.
Koi played Vitality's game. We said if you play for team fights, that's Vitality, and they go straight for it.
Larsen's hopping over the wall, mimics that as well. The silence, I think, forces him out once again.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, exactly what Koi are. They've been silenced. The time that they walk in there has just been, thank you, has been absolutely just, I don't know. There is no reason for you to try and go for that. It's a second dragon. It's a Cloud Dragon. You can just play for sides, overload top side, get top tier 2, immediately set up vision around Baron, constantly threaten then. Like, there's easy ways for Koi to try and play this out, but instead, they're falling back to what has been their bread and butter. Koi are the team fight team. They're the team that wants to play for dragons, but this is not the composition to do it. And you see it here. Photon pops the early ultimate, so he's building up that rage. The second he has the extra damage from the rage, Dagda pops the ultimate. They're able to separate Szygenda, who's put himself into the pit without that ultimate that we're talking about. And then Where's your follow-up? Where's your CC? Where's the people to buy space for the backline as Perkz is able to rip through them and go in onto the play?
Where is the question? Compositionally, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Without the Mega Gnar, without the timing, without, let's say, Koi dictating the pace of it, they don't have the tools. The moment Nature's Grasp went down, Szygenda was effed. There was no way the rest of the squad could get into the pit to save him. The thing is, it is still Koi with a minor lead. Unfortunately, it feels like the control that they had generated from that 10 to 20 minute mark is now starting to wither away.
And this is why I think we're seeing, as we come back to it, Azir, Maokai as the big strong picks that we're seeing, LeBlancs and these kind of things, not really rising up as the strongest in the LEC, because you have to play a very different game, and at the moment, the LEC just isn't able to do it.
Well, that's what Larssen can do. He's got himself 1 kill already. He is still 44 CS up. 200 gold bounty, a 2,000 gold advantage. The big one for me is Comp was what, 1,500, 1,600 gold up a little while ago? That's now shrunk to 600. CS advantage is there for Upset for the time being, so he's been catching those waves. Zeri getting to 3 items and will be backed by that Soraka. So we'll have to find out. Oh, and on top of that, thank you for pointing out, Dagda, that the death cap has been secured by Perkz as well. A little bit more of that traditional build than we've been seeing than the Nash's Tooth from game number 1. But Perkz' Emperor's Divide was pretty significant in that previous Dranger fight.
It is a risky call from Perkz, though, because it's like you invest so much gold into Rabadons that if you don't get to, get 2.5 items, it never really pays off. But I think he's read this game well, where it's like Koi just aren't able to close this one out fast enough, so takes the risk, gets rewarded for it. And now Vitality again, they're just like, cool, we're just going to push waves consistently. And we know that now we've got a 3rd dragon that's up in 2 minutes' time. We've got opportunities on the map, and may even look for Comp here.
Comp's in trouble. Upset's gonna hop over the wall. Will use that lightning crash down. Burst fire is out. Moonlight Vigil. One more shot is all that's needed, but Comp will be able to dodge, dip, duck, and dive. With him running for his life, do Vitality see any other opportunities? More importantly for me, this is a trend. We've seen Upset being sort of the leading figure on fights again and again. And Vitality, 4 members are hunting Larssen. Douglas has got point and click. Larssen will use that mimic. Teleport committed as well. Keep your eyes on the minimap. Malrang's coming for reinforcements. Larssen is now flashed again. Another teleport is committed. They want Larssen's head, and I don't think they're going to get it.
No, he blast cones. He's got the other one, I'm assuming, there beside Dragon as well. Larssen manages to hop out, but Larssen's now onto the bottom side of the map. Douglas, this is the right call from the newcomer. Start the Baron, like that should be it. Larssen has to go back to base. He's no mana and could TP, but I mean, Douglas, that was the correct call, but Vitality weren't there to follow.
Reddit, I beg of you, please give me the Benny Hill music. And Vitality chasing Larssen down. 2 teleports committed to try and secure it. They don't do so. Let's be honest about it as well. Not a significant amount to play for with the big neutrals, but another tower goes the way of Koi. They are still 2,500 gold up. And in terms of combat stats, it's actually just that separates them. And Vitality now fancy, right, let's start the Baron. Let's try to get a teleport out of Larssen, whether they can. No Mega Gnar available. Teleport from Szygenda in correction is what I was trying to say there. And the Baron will now be enough. Teleport secured. Both of them, in fact, and now they back away, Dagda.
Yeah, Szygenda needs to try and hit this Mega Gnar soon, but he's nowhere near us. And Vitality, they're getting the opportunity to poke Douglas. This ultimate could be huge in the position that Koi are in.
Larssen hopped over that wall. The Equinox silence into the stun from Renekton. Wasn't able to pick up the kill. But I will give credit here to Vitality. They managed to get both of those TPs just a moment ago. Morella Nomicon secured for Larssen as well. 3rd item finished. So we need to keep tabs on that. But if Koi keep getting sucked into these 5v5s, my instinct is it's just simpler for Vitality to play them. And when you've got the Hullbreaker and the LeBlanc, I think you want to be playing for the side lanes.
Vitality just rolled the dice, though. They all in on the Baron call, and it means that now Comp is able to move down. So Vitality immediately start to move back. Still a lot of wards here, so Koi know this is happening. Comp needs to pull off of this Dragon. Szygenda, again, just went exhausted. No Mega Gnar for the moment.
Yeah, no Wish available for Kaiser either. Larssen dashes forward, the chains connect. Szygenda has got that flash may needed. Douglas is stuck inside the pit. The Nature's Grasp has been fired. Comp will also arrive. Vitality somewhat surrounded. Upset running north, 3 members of Vitality running south. Malrang going forward, Perkz buying time with an Emperor's Divide, but now he's the target. Szygenda's gonna make a Gnar out. Blast going from Perkz, Larssen's chasing him. The chains connected, he hasn't got the damage just yet. Lightning Crash comes up from Upset, there's not enough damage to find the kill. Upset hops over the wall, Mega Gnar forward. Szygenda and Comp find themselves another kill, but Photon will spin and win. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Koi.
It's gone disastrously for Vitality. It is an absolute disaster for Vitality. The fact that you're trying to play these fights all over the place, no one is playing front to back, there is no setup, and you have that opportunity where Szygenda actually has no Mega Gnar available, and still you are running all over the place. Like, this is where, okay, turn on Szygenda. Szygenda does a great job buying time here. The fact he managed to hop, flash over the wall as the CC comes through is great. Perkz is trying to play 1v4 on top side. Upset has to use his auto attacks to hit the blast cone to save Perkz. So Szygenda's now on bot side. He's bought all the time in the world, and you're just being chased down because there's gale forces, there's jumps from Larssen, there's nothing to stop you being chased down. And the whole point of this composition is, for Koi, we are stronger than you in small skirmishes. And you can see it in the damage output there. But if you ever team fight for Vitality, you're going to win, but they just can't get the team fight that they want.
Weren't able to. I mean, they played the Baron bait game and ultimately didn't pay off. I will, give you a little peek behind the scenes. Dagda is one of the friendliest and nicest commentators you will ever hear. For Dagda to throw 120 dumpster fire emojis on screen tells you just how strongly he feels right now. And that means that Koi, they get the Baron, they're able to punish the Baron bait from Vitality, and now Koi have got Baron empowered 1-3-1 composition, which should be the tools that we want to see them utilize to break open the base, break open those inhibitors.
I mean, it's past 25 minutes and they have a leave. This is where Koi...
It's unknown territory.
Well, they have won some games, but especially for Koi, this is actually in a really good spot for them. As you say, Comp has full control over mid. You can see Larssen with the tier 2 already gone. He's putting pressure onto the inhibitor. So you buy space now for the priority mid to lean down into bot side to set up with Szygenda. Like, this is perfectly played from Koi in this position. And again, setting up vision the entire way. They're drawing Vitality down and not overextending, as Comp should be able to just walk away from this. May have to Gale Force back a bit, but...
Comp will just about get caught out. Cleanse is still available to him, but he dared them. I dare you to jump into me. 3.5 items completed. Significant gold in, and any time that Vitality spend hunting Comp is just allowing Larssen to push on the side lane. 3,500 gold is the lead. And I will once again remind everybody that Vitality did just make a substitution. They brought in that 17-year-old jungler in Dagda. They first picked the Maokai, and the game has not gone the way that they would have hoped.
To be fair, though, I think Dagda has played well. I actually think he's made several of the calls, but just Vitality aren't following up on what has been the plays. And then again, like, they're so spread out, and that's not on Dagda. It's, again, the problem that we've seen with Vitality throughout. Now Comp going to take the spot inhibitor, Koi are going to take mid. Everything is down, and Vitality is going with it.
Koi, if they get to 5, they get to groups. One more objective stands in their way. Wild Growth has been used. Photon and Perkz arrive to the fight, but it might be too little and too late. Immediately forced to run away. Dagda was cut down before the TPs could finish channeling, and Koi set their sights on the Nexus. Koi set their sights on the group stage, and they pick up their first win of group stage week 3. First win of week 3. Damn it, Trevor.
Oh. Nailed it. But 3 and 4 now for Koi. They get to separate themselves from that bottom of the bunch that we talked about. Join Astralis on that scoreline as well. And great spot there for Koi now. It's just making sure that they are putting themselves and inching themselves ever closer, getting in towards groups.
Heartbreaking loss there for Vitality. A few moments it started to look decent. I think for Koi, though, both of these squads sitting in the lower end of the table, still stuff to clean up. But importantly, at 3 and 4, still 2 games to play. We're going to take a quick look at Koi's remaining games. They have G2 and Astralis. Unenviable matches to play out. With no time left for Koi, they pick up their first win here of week 3.
And now you're in a position here as Koi where it's looking good for you. Whereas for Vitality, That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
1 and 5 now. You have to basically hope that you can hop over SK and BDS. For Vitality, they do have that game tomorrow against BDS, so at least that gives them something. But it is dire straits for Vitality. This is insane. For the squad that this team is supposed to have been, for the names that are on this team as well, it's a disaster.
Out of the remaining scenarios for Vitality, in order to advance to the group stage, it has dropped to 3.3% of remaining scenarios. We'll find out whether the odds are obviously not likely. And that does mean that the season final event will get there. Let's quickly go out, wrap up this game. You can vote for your player of the game at LEC on Twitter, Larssen, and Advienne. For Koi and Koi fans out there, 78.6% of the remaining scenarios have them getting to group stage. The analyst desk, and I'll be hosting it tomorrow, we're going to break down all those possible scenarios way more, because now things get real juicy. Vitality are up there in championship points, and if they don't make groups, that means for fans of Fnatic and XL, your chances do go up a little when you look at the season finals event.
It's real tough though, because I was actually looking at it yesterday, and I'm not even certain, unless you get second, third position, that you can overhop them. Vitality have a lot of points.
They do. For Fnatic, you need to hit a minimum of 4th seed at the end of summer to even have a 2.5% chance of all the scenarios. I mean, it's mind-boggling. We will break it down with the actual tool a bit later. For now, though, we're going to head on stage where Larssen is standing by with Trouble.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Larssen, congrats on the win. First win of the weekend. Does it feel a little bit better going into that last week?
Yeah, obviously this was a game we really needed to win, big time. It was kind of a must-win, in my opinion. So it feels really good, but I'm not too relieved because we still have 2 more games to go this week, and we still need to win at least 1 more game. So yeah, I'm still a little bit relieved, but I'm mainly focused on tomorrow's game now.
I wonder, how does your preparation look like going versus Vitality when you know Bo was there, now Douglas is there? Did this throw a little bit of a curveball when you guys were preparing for them?
Probably changed a little bit in draft, but it's not like we changed our practice or how we anything. We didn't really change anything. We just play our game. And today we played really Korean. We played really nice, really disciplined, and that was just really nice gameplay, I think.
Did you enjoy your static shift LeBlanc, Larssen?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying it for the last weekend.
Yeah, okay, might as well get in before it gets changed, right? Now, when it comes to your practice, guys, obviously the past weeks, I'm assuming, are not as good as you guys would have wanted them to look like. What did you learn from the past 2 weeks to apply to this weekend?
We haven't learned a lot. I think we're improving very fast, but also there's a lot of pressure on us because we need to win today, right, kinda, and there's a lot of pressure right now. So that makes it play maybe a bit different on stage, but I still feel like we have been improving a lot, and I think we're a very strong team. So if we make it to the next stage, I'm very sure that we can contest for the title. But right now, I'm just focused on the weekend. So.
Larssen, you have been at the top of the league for the longest time now, and obviously Perkz has as well. Does this ever change the way you approach a game when you know who your opponent is?
Yeah, definitely. When you play mid-laners, you've played many times. You know the patterns, you know how to play. So definitely it affects you a bit. But mainly I was just focused on playing very aggressive today. I was just very focused on myself. I did a lot of self-talk before because last weekend I felt the pressure a bit too much. Even though there's more pressure this week, I still felt really calm today and aggressive. Thank you. So yeah, I was just focused on myself and making sure I self-talk a lot to make sure that I'm good headspace for the game.
And it looked really good. Now, Larssen, I have to ask you, every time Azir meta comes back, people are looking at you because you're one of the best Azirs that we have in Europe. How do you feel like the current meta for the mid laners is?
The meta is really nice. I think it's really fun. You can play all different styles. I still haven't played Azir, so that's yet to come. I'm excited to play him again. It's been a while.
Okay, it's been a while. Can't wait to see your Azir, Larssen. Congrats on the victory. We're going to throw it on the very quick break. And when we're back, it's going to be XL versus G2. Don't go anywhere.
Keeps Photon alive, and the latest first blood of summer is secured. It's Photon's Renekton, backed up by Dagda's Maokai. 2 kills, 2 assists for Vitality in the...
LeBlanc smoking.
Hey, can we watch on now?
Yeah, you can. Go. Look for the car. Okay. He's silent. Front to back. Front to back.